Hello, everyone, and welcome to Birdview's weekly workshop. I'm excited to have you all join today. Our weekly workshops take place every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. So we cover a wide variety of topics each week. You can register for our weekly workshops through our website under the events tab. Oops, sorry. Or you can even use the link that's displayed on the screen right now. I encourage you to join as many of these sessions as you can in order to learn tips and tricks on how the system can work well for you and how you can make the most of Birdview for your work. So with each session, we start off with a demo on the topic that we're covering, and then we use the last 10 minutes to go over any questions that any of you may have. So please feel free to send in your questions through the chat. We also have a Q&A option there. Or you can simply just raise your hand virtually and we'll get to your questions once we are done with the demo. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so our topic today is how to create custom fields within projects and portfolios. So we'll start with understanding what a custom field is and how it can be used to capture details about projects. We'll also learn how to create a custom field and where to find it within the system, whether it's in the activity center or other areas within the system. I will also take you through an example of a dashboard containing custom fields. And finally, we will go over a few points on things that are good to know about custom fields and their use within the system so that you can avoid errors and make sure that it is being used to the best of its ability. So what is a custom field? So this is a field that is typically not native within the system. It could be a field that is unique to your industry or to your company or even to your department. So while a few native fields could be things like start dates, end dates, maybe progress and status, some of the unique custom fields are things like cost center for time entries, maybe an invoice number for activities, or even an expense type for expenses. So creating custom fields within the system is extremely easy. At the top left here, if you go to company settings and you have the permission to create custom fields or access them, you'd be able to see this custom fields tab right here itself. So once I click on it, you're able to see all of the custom fields that have been created within my account. Now, these are split between things like projects, tasks. I have one for customer field as well as for time entries. But you have the ability to create new ones by simply clicking on this add new field right here. Now, when you go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and give your field a name. You can give your field a description. You can decide for what area of the system you want this custom field to be created. So for example, you can do it within projects, all activity types, which will include task, issue, and request. So this field will appear in all three, or you can do them individually for task, request, and issue. You can do it within the customer tab, within a user tab, within a portfolio or specific to a portfolio. And you can also do it for an expense or for a time entry. Now, you also have the ability to decide what type of custom field it is. So if it's going to be a text, it's just going to be a space where you can fill out or type in text. If it's a number field, you'd probably be able to only fill in numbers, but you will not be able to fill in text. A date field, pretty straightforward. You can pick from dates that are visible in a calendar. A yes or a no checkbox. A list, which is basically a list of options, and then you pick one of them. You also have text area, which is normal, as well as text area, which is rich formatting. So a text area is slightly larger than a normal text field that you see up here. It can maybe accommodate a paragraph versus just accommodating a few words. And text area with rich formatting indicates that you can add additional features to that text. So for example, you can make the text bold, or you can add an underline to it to make it more visible, or to differentiate itself from other types of fields right here. A hyperlink is extremely useful if you want to add, let's say, a website link within your project or your task, or if you want to add a SharePoint link or a link to, let's say, a shared drive, which needs to be accessed by your team when they're working on specific tasks or a project. A multi-select is a list of options that is going to allow you to select more than one option at any given time. So while a list allows you to just select one at a time, a multi-select gives you the option to select more than one at a time. You can also make your custom field mandatory, which means that it's going to flag it within the system visually for you to be able to understand that something is being missed within the system. So that's very helpful if there are fields that you definitely need to have filled out within the system. And you can also limit by portfolio, which means that if you create a custom field and you limit it by a certain portfolio, that field is going to be visible to projects only within that portfolio. So that's also a very useful option to have. So let's go ahead and create a custom field for the expense type. So let's give this field a name. Let's call this expense type. And as a description, I'm just going to say, fill out the type of expense. As the field type, I would like to add a list option. I'm not going to make it mandatory in this case. And when I click on add new item here, I can go ahead and fill out the list that I actually want to have in there. So let's say travel is an option for an expense type. Fuel is an option. Contractor. And let's say supplies is another type. So I have these 4 types that I filled in there. I also have the ability to give them specific colors if I want to. So in this case, let's make travel green. Let's make fuel blue, contractor pink, and then we have red for supplies. So these are my 4 colors. I also have the ability to switch the order of these in the system. So if I want them to appear in this order, I can keep it the same, or I can move things around. So let's say I would like supplies to appear before contractors and fuel to appear first, travel to appear second. So I can move things around according to the view that I want it to appear within the custom field. I won't be limiting by portfolio in this case, but if I did want to, I would simply click on the show this field only for projects included in selected portfolios. And I would just go ahead and select the portfolio where I want it to appear. All right, so let's go ahead and save this as my expense type field. And there we go, it appears at the end. Now, another thing to keep in mind with custom fields is that this order that you see right here, this is the same order in which it's going to appear within the project. So if I would like zone to appear after CVP, I would simply switch that and it's going to change that order automatically. I also have the ability to show all objects the way you see it right now. So all of my custom fields, sorry, all of my custom fields that I've created appear right now, and they are differentiated based on the custom field type. But I can also decide to only view project fields, and it's only going to show me those. All right, so now that we've created custom fields in the system, let's go ahead and find out where we are going to be able to see these custom fields appear within the system. Each of those fields that were created based on what type they are that's where they're going to appear in the system. So right now, if I click on details of this project right here, I'm going to see all of my project related custom fields appear right here. I can hide these fields if I don't want to see them, but if I want to, I can always view them, and I can also make changes to them if I need to. Similarly, a task custom field is going to, or an activity custom field is going to appear within the activity or the task. So I click on details. I'm able to view my custom fields here as well. Here are some options of what the different ones look like. So in this case, agent file number is actually a number field. So if I try to type text, which I'm doing right now, nothing's going to appear. But if I go ahead and type in a number, that's going to appear. A checkbox is simply marking this as an internal district task or a non-internal district task. In this case, just uncheck that. Division is a list field, so I'm only able to select one at a time. And classification, is actually a multi-select field. So I can select more than one option for classification if I need to. So that's how it typically appears here as a field. Now, what I would like to show you next is what an expense field looks like in the system. So if I click on details and I jump to the financial piece right here, I'm able to see my planned as well as actual expenses. So if I click on my planned expense, I'm able to see my expense type appear right here. So we can go ahead and fill out an expense, a planned expense with the expense type, let's say 500, can give it a description, mark it as billable or non-billable. It's showing me the activity or the project, and I have my expense type. I can go ahead and use, add it as a fuel expense type. All right, so this is where you'll see expenses within planned as well as actual expenses. The other option for you to view your custom field for time logs is within the time logs page. So I can see my weekly timesheets. If I click on Tuesday, April 25th, let's say for this task right here, if I click on add time, I'm able to see cost center as a custom field for timesheets. And I can also see that within the time logs history tab. So if I scroll over to the right here, I can see cost center as a custom field right here. So while you can see custom fields in various different areas in the system, a good way to look at an overview of your custom fields, especially with regard to a report or a specific project, all in one place would be to actually look at it through a report. You can always use our report generator to create reports where you can add fields which are custom fields. But I have an example here of a business intelligence dashboard that that we have created in order to make sure that all of my custom fields in my account have been added into a single report. Now, this is a dynamic report. We have a team that works specifically to build out BI dashboards for our clients. And so if you have custom fields that you want to have in a report that looks something like this, we can actually build it out for you. So let me explain a bit about what you are seeing on the screen right now. So I have a few custom fields. I have client type as one. I have project level, project by zone. There's also collaboration code, CVP number, agency number. All of these are custom fields that were created in my account. And this report is actually able to give me more details about projects with these custom fields in them. And I'm also able to drill down further to show which projects have specific fields in them. So for example, let's say I would like to see all of my projects that are connected to client 4, which is the client type. I can simply click on this bar which says client 4, and I'm then going to see all of the different details for those clients. So these are the levels of for the projects for this client. These are the zones that are connected to it. I can see the agency numbers, the collaboration codes, and the CVP numbers, and I can see all of the projects that are for client 4. Similarly, if I need to see all of the projects within a specific level, I have the ability to do that as well. And again, it's going to give me similar details. I can also pick certain types from up here. So let's say if I want to look at a customer, the Melinda Gates Foundation. For this customer, this is what the client types look like. This is what the project levels look like. And these are the projects by zone. And again, the details appear right here. So these are extremely dynamic reports and can help you, slice and dice your data to view it in different ways. You can also present it to teams, and you also have the ability to export this to PDF if you want to share it with the rest of the team or anybody externally. As I mentioned, we have a team that works specifically to build these out. So this is one example of the report that was created, but I also have a second version, which is going to give me details based on the CVP number and the collaboration code along with status, rather than by the zone, by the client type, and by the project level. So you can switch these up. They are based on your specific requirements. So if this is something that you would like to do, please do reach out to us and we can give you some examples of how it can be used better for your own data as well. All right, so that is what we have in terms of custom fields within the system. I would like to spend a few minutes to show you some or give you some details about some good to know things about custom fields. These are definitely going to help prevent errors and help you leverage it much better when it comes to using them within your projects. So the first one is the limit by portfolio option. Within company settings and custom fields, I'm going to pick client type as an example here. The limit by portfolio option will enable you to select a specific portfolio. However, it's important to keep in mind that you do have parent portfolios as well as child portfolios within the system. So if you would like a field to appear within that parent portfolio, it's important to also select all of the child portfolios as well, to make sure that you aren't missing out on that field in projects within certain portfolios. The next thing, the way to do that is to just select both from right here. You don't have to jump anywhere else. You can do it from right here itself. The next thing is to keep in mind that your time entry custom fields are available within the time logs page only as of now. So while you can see it over here within cost center and the time logs history page, if I jump to the activity center and let's say I'm going to be adding time to this task, I am assigned to it, I have my add time entry button. If I click on add time entry, I'm not going to see that custom field appear right here. I will only see it in the time logs history page. Another thing to keep in mind about the time logs history page, the weekly timesheets page, is that you will only be able to see this information if the time logs detail tab is turned on. So if I toggle this off and I click on Tuesday, April the 25th, I'm only able to enter the amount of time that I've spent on this task, but I won't be able to see more details on it. So if I turn this on and I click on Tuesday, April 25th, I'm able to add my description and I'm also able to see my custom field that is connected to this time entry option as well. All right. The next thing to keep in mind is that at an expense custom field level, your custom fields are going to appear not only in the planned expenses, but also in the actual expenses. So we have this planned expense that we've created right here. If I would like to convert this to an actual expense, I click on the actual expense option. and I can move it here to the actual expense. However, if I want to edit the expense type, I have the ability to do that. So it's going to appear as two separate types when it comes to planned versus actual. It's something to keep in mind to educate your team on, that they should not change that type because it might cause issues internally. And also for yourself to keep in mind when you are adding planned expenses to make sure that you are adding the right expense type. The last, actually the second last thing that I would like to tell you about is that the mandatory field that you see within custom fields, especially in the activity center, is simply a visual mandate. So for example, if I add a new project, let's call this a test, and I have my custom fields here at the project level. I have a couple of fields that are mandatory in here. However, they are just visual mandates. I'm not going to restrict, or I'm not restricted from going ahead and adding anything else to the project, or going ahead and adding time or marking tasks as complete. So if I want to go ahead and set dates for this task, I can go ahead and do that. It's not going to stop me from doing that. It's not going to stop me from sending messages to the team either, but it's still going to appear here as red, and it's not going to allow me to hide my custom fields either. So if I go ahead and select client type and also select project level, I've completed the mandatory custom fields, and so I can minimize it and continue my work if I want to. Our team is working to add restrictions to that mandatory field, where in the future you will be able to restrict team members from going ahead with a project without having those fields filled out. More to come on that as we move along. The last thing in terms of good to know would be the use of custom fields within custom forms within the system. So when you have a custom form, you have the ability to add a custom field within there. So if I edit the form that I already have and I jump to add a field right here, I would suggest using the list option as the main option and not a text box or an input level. Simply because when you convert a form to a project and it does have details about a custom field, it's not going to appear accurate unless it has the exact same terminology, the exact same spelling for that value in the system. So if I select the list of options, I could also use custom field as a source of options, which would make it easier. I don't have to copy and paste those options. I can just select, let's say, CVP number and hit apply. And then you have that list already appear. Or if I use a list option here, I can add my own list and then copy and paste exactly how those numbers are going to appear as the options. If it was a text option and we have missed a letter, or we have added a capital letter and a small letter, that's not going to appear in the system when you convert it. And so it's important to have that appear in a list option, or in by adding a custom field directly into the form. All right, so the month of May is Birdview's resource loading month. So our topics for next week and the week after that are the basics of resource management. And there's a lot more to come on this feature throughout the month of May. So please join us. Once again, you can register for these weekly workshops on our website or use the link on the screen. You also have the option to sign up for multiple workshops at any given time. So you don't have to individually jump in every week and sign up, but you can sign up for all of the workshops that we have for the month of May all at once. We also have our monthly webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So this topic is going to be on creating effective job roles. Job roles is our new feature. And we are going to show you how effective they can be and how best to use them for your specific requirements as well. You can register for this webinar as well on the same link, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope this session was helpful. Your suggestions are always welcome, so please feel free to send in any recommendations for topics that you would have or you would like us to cover for future weeks. And you can use the email that's on the screen right now, so success@birdviewpsa.com.